Welcome back to another episode of Caps Off by the Game Day. It is Fantasy Thursday, who to trade for Thursday, who to sell away Thursday, with friend of the pod, Instagram legend in the fantasy space, I would say, Faraz of Upper Hand Fantasy. Welcome back, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm excited. Season's here.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about this stuff, before the season started, but we're in it now. We are in the thick of it.
We are definitely in the thick of it. You're starting to get to people right now where they're 0-2, and we were talking about this off camera, where you're finally going to overreact in some ways, right? So like week 1, no one's really going to panic yet, but the panic meter starts to grow a little bit. Week 2, you start 0-2, you look at like a Jamar Chase, and you're like, well, I know Jamar can probably bounce back, but at what cost am I waiting if Joe Burrow's hurt? But then you get into like a week 3 or week 4, which is where we're approaching right now, where the panic meter really starts to hit. So this is the prime spot, I think, where you could begin making trades. So we're going to go through a bunch of the high-level guys, people that you want to buy, people that you want to trade away. I want to know your thoughts. I'm going to let you ramble. I know on your podcast you did this yesterday,
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
that's correct.
So I'm curious to know where you stand on a lot of these guys.
All right.
But yeah, any thoughts early on in fantasy right now in these first couple of weeks?
I will say, if you are 0-2, don't panic.
Right.
Okay. Don't panic, sell.
Mhm.
I know it seems bleak. If you have a Josh Jacobs, if you have a Jamar Chase,
Yep.
you have a Joe Burrow, and you're like, man, what do I do at quarterback? I thought I had these guys. You drafted Justin Fields, and you're just like, oh man, what do I? Don't panic.
Right.
Okay. Can you keep improving your roster using the waiver wire? Explore trades. Don't do anything drastic like sell Jamar Chase for pennies or anything like that. I just relax.
Yeah.
Okay. There has been times where I have been 0-3, 0-4,
And you make a comeback.
and won a championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because things break right. Sometimes you have injuries early, but you have a little bit of time to improve your roster so that when it matters, you end up making that run, because the injury bug might not have hit the teams that are killing it early, but they're going to hit those teams later on when it actually matters.
Absolutely.
So just relax. You will likely be fine. Just make the right moves and keep improving your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as a reminder, if you want to play any DFS, make sure to go to thegameday.com, /promotions. You can find anything. I know Underdog has a great promo. I know you work with Underdog, so make sure to get in and on the action with Underdog. But I want to start it off with this, a little segment called What Would It Take? I'm going to name a few players, and I want to know what would it take to trade these guys away, or what would it take to trade for these guys? And I guess that'll kind of be a good place to start with in terms of buying or selling away. But let's start with PUKA NACUA. What would it take to trade PUKA NACUA away or trade for PUKA NACUA right now?
All right. So right now you could say that he is probably the hottest name in fantasy.
Yep.
Okay. So which means that inherently his value is going to be the highest.
Right.
Right. So, if I have PUKA NACUA, I am either holding, number one, but number two, I am only trying to trade for the top guys.
Right.
Okay. So I am packaging PUKA NACUA up. I'm trying to do 2-for-1s. Okay. So most likely you can't land a Jamar Chase with just PUKA. An 0-2 team might be desperate enough to do that. I'm telling you guys not to,
right? But
the people who aren't listening might, right? So what I'm trying to do, though, I'm trying to even go higher than that.
Right.
I'm trying to go for Justin Jefferson,
Jettis, or even Tyreek, potentially.
I'm trying to go to Tyreek Hill.
Wow,
I'm trying to go to Christian McCaffrey. So what I'm doing is I'm taking PUKA, and I'm combining that with maybe a Devontae Smith, who's been killing it.
Really?
Yeah. And I will trade that 2-for-1 for Justin Jefferson. Why? Because you're making that upgrade to the point where it's worth it. You're trading that 2-for-1. Now, hopefully you have somebody on your bench that you can slide into your flex if you do that, right? So because PUKA, you weren't banking on him to be a starter for you. But instead of having two guys who are, most likely going to kill it most weeks, not every week like Justin Jefferson would, you have somebody who is now, you just got the 101 on your roster. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Same thing with Tyreek Hill. So me personally, I like to make those 2-for-1 moves for just absolute studs.
Knowing exactly what you're going to get from them.
Exactly. Because PUKA is 2 weeks in. Right. And by the way, okay, if you've been following my content since the Senior Bowl,
I saw that.
You would have had PUKA NACUA on.
That's crazy. Let's shout that out, because you were actually the first person. So let's flashback. Senior Bowl, you called PUKA NACUA as looking like a guy. This is before he even had a team, correct?
Correct.
And what did you see? What did you see from PUKA in like a nutshell?
Basically what you're watching right now on the Rams, that's what I saw. However, like, you know, that it wasn't against NFL caliber players
Right.
during practice. He had that one senior day practice on that Wednesday. I remember it. I was there. I shot a bunch of footage, and I talked to him afterwards and I interviewed him, and I'm like, listen, like, he looked really good. He was like the standout on day one.
Wow.
We did not see him day two. We did not see him day three. And I think it's because his agent probably was like, hey, we saw enough.
Yep.
Let's just chill out.
Right.
And then I looked at the numbers. He was like
pretty good at BYU.
Number one, number two in yards per route run among all college wide receivers. The only problem was that he just was a little bit banged up throughout his college career. So I'm like, all right, there's something here. And then when the Rams drafted him, I'm like, all right, well, this is a team that could use a wide receiver. And I predicted before the season started, when the draft happened, that he would be starting for them in 3 wide receiver sets. That was my prediction. Now you
didn't expect this level,
not even
but
close.
Toot your horn. You called that one way earlier than anyone else, because I got it from you actually. So week 0, we did right before the season, we did like players that we think might break out, players to watch. PUKA was the guy that I had mentioned, and I saw it because your Senior Bowl video a long time ago. And just looking at opportunities, you look around the league, obviously guys that are filling in for, you know, obviously a hole like Cooper Kupp who wasn't playing. So shout out to you, because I got my information from you.
Perfect.
You had your information from the get-go. So props to Faraz, dude. You nailed
I appreciate
PUKA.
it. Well, and if you're, you know, if you play Dynasty too, like, he was an easy like 4th, 5th round rookie pick too.
Yeah.
So like, I'm glad that a lot of people were able to get him on their roster.
So from my understanding, if you're a PUKA NACUA owner, you are looking to move him right now.
I am, but I'm only shooting for those top
only
guys.
If you get those guys.
And here's why. I think when Cooper Kupp comes back, he does not turn into a pumpkin. He's not playing the Cooper Kupp role right now. Cooper Kupp is a slot guy, right? He's playing his majority, around 60% of his routes are from the slot. PUKA NACUA is playing a majority of his routes on the outside, kind of that Robert Woods role.
Right.
But Robert Woods was never the target earner that PUKA NACUA was over the first 2 weeks of the season. So PUKA NACUA can still be very, very fantasy relevant, potential top 18 wide receiver, even with Cooper Kupp there. You see how Matthew Stafford's balling right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's making Tutu. If he can make Tutu Atwell relevant right now and completely startable in week 3, then I think he could do the same thing for Cooper Kupp and PUKA NACUA.
Well, I want to go through a few guys in the range of rest of season outcomes. I'm going to name a bunch of players, and I want you to say, are you going to take PUKA NACUA over them rest of season or this player, right? And then maybe you have some others to throw in. But would you rather PUKA NACUA edition, Chris Olave?
Chris Olave.
Easily?
Yeah, pretty easily, because he is the clear number 1 wide receiver on his team. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. He is somebody who can easily break out this year, and he has the real talent and profiles as a wide receiver 1 on his team. So, yes, I'm going Chris Olave over PUKA.
Then I feel like I know where you're going to go with some of these. A.J. Brown.
I'd rather have A.J. Brown as well. I would trade PUKA NACUA for A.J. Brown 1-for-1, and you could do that right now. Devontae Smith has been the number 1 wide receiver over the first 2 weeks of the season for the Eagles. The Eagles haven't even, you know, they're still working out some kinks with their offense. So A.J. Brown is somebody that I'm definitely taking over PUKA rest of the season.
Well, what about his running mate, Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith too. I mean, you know, I personally, I would, if I have Devontae Smith, then I want to package him up right now. But I do think that A.J. Brown's going to have his games too. So that's a little bit of an iffy one for me. I think I still lean Devontae Smith just because he's such a good wide receiver. He's going to have his games, and this is his 3rd year, man. He could break out, and he's already looking like he's gonna do his thing.
And the value was there on him as well. You got him maybe in like the 4th round, and he could outproduce A.J. Brown. So it's tough, because what it seems like is these guys that you know what they're capable of almost is what you'd prefer, right? Versus with PUKA, he's amazing right now. But he could still be somewhat relevant if Cooper Kupp comes back, if Cooper Kupp is healthy. If he's not, he can still be that guy. But like, it's all the ifs, the what ifs, right?
Exactly.
With these other guys, you're like, I know what I'm getting, and you'd prefer that.
I don't think PUKA NACUA is going to out-target Cooper Kupp when he comes back.
Right.
So I don't think this becomes like an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith type of situation where you never know who's going to be the number 1. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be the clear number 1 when he comes back. He's going to continue to do his thing at a high level, which is why I'd rather take those guys who we know are potentially elite wide receivers.
Okay, then I'll jump a little bit further down, because I think I'll know where you'll go with Keenan Allen and Jalen Waddle. Brandon Ayuk.
Give me PUKA.
Yeah,
give me PUKA, because I think his floor, even when Cooper comes back, is going to be around where Brandon Ayuk is going to be ranked. He had a great, first week, but it was a situation where that team that he played a lot of man coverage, and when you look at the splits between Ayuk and Debo, when each of them do well and when they get targeted is the high percentage of zone defensive teams. That's when Debo shines, and the opposite for Ayuk. So, we're going to see those back and forth games. I'm a huge Brandon Ayuk fan.
Yep.
But, this is a situation where the ball is going to be spread around a lot.
Totally. And last but not least, George Pickens.
Oh, this is not even close.
This is a PUKA.
PUKA, not even close, dude. If George Pickens, to me personally, I'm selling him this week.
I don't want him at all.
Yeah, I'm selling him this week after that big play that he had. That Steelers offense is just looking atrocious right now. I'm hoping that they can get rid of Matt Canada. They can get a new offensive coordinator in there right now because it's looking really bad.
But even if Matt Canada did go, because I agree, the offense, it's just so bland, it's so vanilla. But even if Matt Canada did go, I don't know if I have that much faith in Kenny Pickett to be able to turn George Pickens into someone that might outproduce Puka Nacua. So I'm with you on that. We know Matthew Stafford can create these elite wide receivers. He's done it with Marvin Jones. He's done it with Kenny Galladay, right? He's done it with other guys. We've seen him do it with Cooper Kupp. And Robert Woods, like you said, was a top 24 wide receiver with Cooper Kupp at that exactly. Whatever year that was. So interesting. Okay. So you're taking bottom line with Puka Nacua. If you have Puka in fantasy, either you package him for one of these top 6 guys, because I guess would Amon-Ra be like at that 6 range?
I would say so. My only concern with Amon-Ra, he has the toe injury right now.
Is that turf toe?
It's turf toe. Yeah. And, they put a steel plate into his shoe during the game.
Right.
So that seems to indicate like a clear turf toe injury. And he didn't practice yesterday on Wednesday. So that is, I don't like trading for injured players. Especially because when you trade for Amon-Ra, you're gonna trade for him at a premium level, where as of right now, he's not at a premium level. By the way, when we talk about Puka Nacua being traded for these guys that we're talking about, it's not because Puka Nacua might be as good of a player as them.
Totally.
It's because you got to take advantage of the perceived value.
Bingo.
Right? That's what it comes up. That's what it's all about.
Bingo. Yeah, I think that's the number one thing. I was in trade talks last night, specifically for Jamar Chase we were talking about. And the number one thing that I keep trying to mention is there's perceived value and there's actual value, right?
100%.
And perceived value is your sweet spot in fantasy. It's everything is built on that perception. And I think Puka Nacua is a guy right now where people are going to look at those numbers and overvalue it a little
100%.
bit. Well, I got a few other guys in what would it take? What would it take to trade Kyren Williams right now?
Oh man, to trade him away?
Trade him away.
You better get a lot, because I have him ranked as the RB6 on the week this week.
Well, what about rest of the season?
So see, there's a thing. What do the Rams do? They have nobody.
Yeah.
They traded away Cam Akers. Kyren Williams is literally the only guy that they should be putting on the field. Zach Evans is not somebody that I was a fan of coming into the NFL. I don't think, he slid for a reason. So Kyren Williams is looking like an RB1 rest of the year. And if you're going to trade him away, you need, and again, perceived value. Right now, a lot of people have lost running backs. They don't have Saquon right now. Nick Chubb is out for the season. Aaron Jones is still banged up. He didn't practice yet. Austin Eckler still banged up. He might be out for another week or so, even after this week. So this is a situation where running backs are at a huge, they're not a commodity at all. Wide receivers might be, but running backs, super valuable. So if I'm trading away Kyren, I better get back maybe a low-end RB1, like maybe an Aaron Jones, somebody who is going to have a role, even though he's hurt right now. And if you're 2-0, maybe you can manage it. But there's a chance that Kyren is a better value rest of the season from Aaron Jones because of the fact that he's so involved in the receiving game. That offense is clicking. But if you can get an established RB1, I'd be willing to do that. Maybe package him up with somebody to get an Austin Eckler, right? Who's banged up right now. And that 0-2 team who has Eckler can use Kyren Williams.
Absolutely.
Right,
and the way I kind of look at a lot of these trades, especially when it comes to Kyren and Puka, and I think it's a good segue between both of them, is you added these guys on the waiver wire. If you want to hold your bias on how they've performed, I totally understand it. But essentially, if you're trading a 2-for-1 with Kyren or with Puka, you're just trading that one player. And that's like, in a way, obviously, that's not actually how it is because they provided you value in the short term. But if you package, like you said, a Puka Nacua and a Devontae Smith, and you're able to get a Jettis, you just traded Devontae Smith essentially for Jettis.
Exactly.
Because week 1, you didn't have Puka Nacua.
Right.
So you've been able to upgrade. And I think that's an easy way to almost justify trading away when you have bias with some of your players.
And sometimes it's okay to overpay, by the way.
Yeah.
That might seem like an overpay for Justin Jefferson, but I'm willing to do it because you're getting your guy
Absolutely.
who's going to kill it every week.
2 more. What would it take to trade Tyreek Hill?
Trade away.
Trade away.
I need to get a lot, dude. Like he's literally one of the most hits. Him, CMC, and Justin Jefferson is the 3 most valuable players in fantasy right now. So it's going to take a lot, man. It's similar to Justin Jefferson, similar to Christian McCaffrey in terms of what kind of value that you want. So, give me. I would love to get an AJ Brown plus, Devontae Smith plus. I would love. See, for me personally, if I'm trading away Tyreek, it's because I'm 0-2 and I don't have depth. I lost the running back. So give me maybe a low end wide receiver 1 or a high end wide receiver 2, like maybe a Keenan Allen, plus maybe a Kyron Williams, or plus maybe a some other running back that can fill in for me because I lost Nick Chubb or I lost one of these other running backs. I would have to do that. I would have to get 2 high end players for Tyreek that would legit fill in slots for me. But if I'm good on depth, I'm not doing it. I'm not trading him 1 for 1 for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm literally I have to break down Tyreek Hill into 2 good players.
Yeah, I think you could even get 3 out of there, right? Like you might have someone that lost. If they have Tyreek as their only, player, I think Jettis is a really good example. In one of my leagues, there's a guy who's 0-2. Jettis is really his only player. Now, he got lucky with Jerome Ford bidding $96 of his, that's 96% of his fab. But when I look at Jettis, it's like, you don't want to trade your top tier guys, but that's where perceived value and actual value comes in. The perceived value of Justin Jefferson is obviously massive, but at the same time, you're really attached to that 101 pick. But at the same time, you need that depth, right? Which is what you just mentioned. So it's really interesting. I wouldn't want to trade away Tyreek. I agree with you unless you needed.
Now, I will say that I don't like breaking down an elite player into 3 players because it dilutes the value a little bit. And usually those 3 players end up not being weak winners, right? Totally. So like if I'm going to trade away someone like Tyreek or Jefferson or McCaffrey, if I'm 0-2, I want to get 2 really, really good players rather than 1 really good and then maybe 2 not as good, not as high end players because of the fact that only one of those guys might be weak winners for you.
Right. Well, I want to go into sell high targets right now. We got a bunch of people throwing in some comments on TikTok. As a reminder, make sure to go to gameday.com/promotions. Get in on any of the DFS action. We're also here with Faraz of Upper Hand Fantasy on Instagram. Massive, like absolutely massive. Make sure to go check him out. He has 6 podcast episodes a week. I mean, there's not many people in the game as knowledgeable as we talked about, called PUKA NACUA at Senior Bowl, that he was going to be a guy. So definitely someone to go check out. Upper Hand Fantasy on Instagram. That's your number 1 account. Has TikTok, has Twitter as well, but that's the number 1 account. You got a new website, I saw, right?
Yeah,
you can get in on become a subscriber, ask you questions direct. So you don't have to come to this podcast and listen to this just to get Faraz questions.
Rankings, waiver wire rankings, fab, guidance, all that kind of stuff.
Totally. So make sure to submit your questions. We'll get to them at the end. We're going to do some sell high targets, players to trade away, and buy low targets, players to trade for. So I have a bunch of people on my list. I'm curious to know, is there 3 people on either end that really come to mind that you're like, I want to trade for this player right now, or I want to trade this player away right now?
I think the obvious buys right now are Jamar Chase and Josh Jacobs. Yep. Josh Jacobs just underperformed, man. Last week he couldn't even get above 0 rushing yards, right? But it was a tough matchup in terms of, the Bills, they were playing in Buffalo. It was at home. The Bills were just completely control that game. They had nothing going on. Josh Jacobs is still getting really, really good utilization right now. RB1 type of utilization. So you can get him cheap. He could potentially be a top 5, top 6 running back the rest of the way. And they're playing the Steelers this week at home. I don't remember if it's in Pittsburgh or if it's in Vegas, but either way, we saw what
it's in Vegas, I believe.
Yeah. We saw what Jerome Ford did last week. Yep. He was able to get those runs against them. So there is a world here where Josh Jacobs breaks out this week and you just grabbed him. You just grabbed an RB1 for cheap.
Yep.
Right. So because of the utilization, this is not a timeshare. This is Josh Jacobs' show. So this offense is going to get right. They're going to get Jacoby back. Devontae Adams also got the concussion, but hopefully, all the pieces will be there and this offense can turn it around just a little bit.
You mentioned Josh Jacobs and Jamar Chase. Now, given what it might take to get either one, who would you rather go trade for?
Josh Jacobs is much easier to get, I think, personally. Also Jamar Chase, like I want to grab him, but there is the little bit of a scare with the calf injury for Joe Burrow, right? It's funny because Chase said, when this injury just initially happened, he's like, hey, Joe, like, just wait
sit
until
out,
sit out. We'll be good till like week 5. You know what I'm saying? Like just you'll be fine. And I was laughing when that happened, but it's kind of true because he just re-aggravated it last week, and now I personally think he needs to sit this week.
Mhm.
Because of what I've seen out there is like if he plays and re-aggravates, he's going to have to go on short-term IR 4 to 6 weeks, and that's going to hurt T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, right? So you want Burrow to just get right so that he could be, good to go for the rest of the year. So that is the caveat where, you obviously the upside's there with Jamar Chase, but you have to be a little bit more risk tolerant in order to do that. But Josh Jacobs is the cheaper guy. You can get him right now because he just hasn't performed in the first 2 weeks. If you need a running back, so many people do. I think he is the primary target, I would say. Now, there is another wide receiver that I'm trying to buy, and that's Christian Watson right now.
Ooh.
Christian Watson, obviously, is hurt. He's banged up. The good thing with the Packers with injuries is that they take their time.
Right.
Like, they don't let guys come back on the field when they're not like 120%. So that's why he was able to kill it last year. Coming off the hamstring injury, he killed it right away. Right. So now, what were the questions surrounding Christian Watson coming into the year? Well, Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Right.
Jordan Love is his quarterback. Huge question mark there, right?
And he looks.
But now everyone's trying to get Jordan Love off the waiver wire right now because he's doing his thing. He's efficient. Week 1, Romeo Doubs, 2 touchdowns. Week 2, Jaden Reed, 2 touchdowns. Christian Watson, he's a touchdown king. Last year, he did his thing. A lot of people said, okay, well, touchdown regression is coming. All he does is score touchdowns.
But even if we had 9 last year, what do you have? He had some absurd number in
just a few games. Okay, but I understand that. Like, sure, like he scores a lot of touchdowns. Without the touchdowns, he wouldn't be anything. Hold on. 2.26 yards per route run last year. Okay. That was only second among all rookies behind Chris Olave. Okay. So, and when you hit that 2 yards per route run threshold as a rookie with 250 routes minimum, listen, those guys, that little data set right there, huge chances of being top 24 wide receivers for multiple seasons. And on top of that, you have at least most of those guys have at least one top 12 season or maybe more. So he's just somebody to bet on in general. And now that the quarterback situation is good, I think he can walk in and just be their clear wide receiver 1 at this point.
What are you offering for Christian Watson then?
Garrett Wilson.
You think someone takes that though? I feel like Garrett Wilson's value has now. Granted, he had a great game against the Cowboys, and you could almost use the leverage of, hey, look what he did against that fantastic defense. But I'm worried that everyone is so concerned naturally about what Zach Wilson is.
Well, you have, that's your mindset. That's my mindset. I would never do that. Right. If I had,
but you're hoping someone.
Yeah. Right. Like you, those are the type of offers that you throw out there because you want to start low when you're throwing these offers out. Okay, cool. You don't want Garrett. How about Drake London? You concerned about him still? Yeah, I am personally because I'm trying to get rid of him right now. I'm trying to get rid of Garrett. I'm trying to get rid of Drake London, trying to get rid of DJ Moore. But these are all the type of guys that you could potentially throw out there for Christian Watson, who still didn't get a full practice yet, limited practice on Wednesday. So he's somebody that, you might want to just throw some stuff out there. George Pickens, right? So a lot of people high on George Pickens. So the confirmation bias happened on, just this past week. So if you have someone like that who drafted Christian Watson, they're 0-2. They need someone to play this week. They're not sure if Watson will play because he didn't get a full practice in. There are ways to do this. Maybe a little bit of two for one. Like if Garrett isn't enough, maybe you throw in another wide receiver 3 for him as an upgrade. Somebody who played well last week and might not be a season-long type of asset.
Yeah, I think we're right in prime territory of the 2-for-1s right now. Because these 0-2 teams are like, well, you know what? I got this guy who's really good, but I need a little bit more depth. I need someone in my flex. I think a lot of leagues have also gone to 2 flex leagues. And that's really where you're going to shine is being able to do these 2-for-1s. Like you said, 3-for-1 waters it down. 3-for-1, if you're receiving the one, is probably your best bet, but you don't really want to receive 3 people. That's going to water down your number 1 guy. A few people on my sell high targets list, and I'm kind of curious your thoughts, would be Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, and I had Kyron Williams on that list only, and I'm not trying to trade Kyron, and I see some comments talking about Kyron. I'm not trying to trade him, but if I can get a surefire thing on a better offense, I would. So those are some people I'm targeting. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift. George Pickens was on my list as well, but we talked about him.
I think
what are your thoughts?
All those guys are sells. I agree with you on all of them. I think Brian Robinson, he overachieved for his opportunity last week. This week, I have a feeling that this is an Antonio Gibson game. And the difference between Antonio Gibson's basically playing the J.D. McKissick role where he's just coming in on passing downs, that sort of thing. But if you look at this week, they're playing against the Bills. This is a situation where if the Bills end up going up and they have to come back in the fourth quarter, it's going to be a lot of Gibson I'm not saying Gibson's going to put up numbers, and it wouldn't start him in fantasy,
but opportunity will.
But he
there.
would take away from Brian Robinson in this game potentially. Right. So that's my concern there. I think Brian Robinson is a much better player this year than he was last year. In terms of fantasy, he has a lot more value than last year because the difference between, like more than 80% of the running back rushing share last week, which is very significant. So he is a legit RB2. However, because he overperformed last week with the 2 touchdowns, I think this is a situation where you take advantage of that. Raheem Mostert, same thing. Drew Rosenhaus, who is Jeff Wilson's agent, said that Jeff Wilson should be good to go in week 5. So when he's back coming off of IR, this is going to be a split straight up. And it's possible that Jeff Wilson ends up taking the 1A role in this backfield, as a lot of us thought he would. So Raheem Mostert coming off the big game. This is somebody who can help a lot of teams over the next 2 weeks.
Totally.
If you're 0-2, you need a running back. I'll take Raheem Mostert if I'm 0-2.
Totally.
And I'll give up something just for the short-term gain.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Raheem Mostert's the type of player where his Jeff Wilson there, obviously, as you mentioned, Devon A-Chain, they wasted capital on that. They were interested in Jonathan Taylor. Like, this is your prime spot, I feel like, to trade Raheem Mostert after a good game. Now, he could have another good game at home against Denver. Brian Robinson just came off a great game. So he could have another great game and you could probably wait. Are you waiting after, this coming week, or are you trying to do it right now?
I'm trying to do it now because you got to think about the other, whoever you're trading him to, you got to think about their perspective. Like if you trade after week 3, the other person knows that they only have 1 week left of Mostert, right? But you got to trade him now so that he has some value. After this week, he's not going to have as much value, right?
Down,
because his water is value. You always got to think about what the mindset is of another person. And I always say, like, everyone asks me, like, hey, who should I have this guy, like, who should I trade for? It's like, all right, well,
what do you need?
What does the other person need? Like, like, hey, I'm trying to trade away this wide receiver. I'm like, okay, why don't you go around your league and see who needs a wide receiver?
Yes.
And then now look at the running backs that they have. Oh, they have a couple extra running backs here. Okay. So let me go look at what they have. Oh, they have 2 tight ends. Oh, they have Sam Laporta. Oh, okay. Let me try to maybe grab Sam Laporta and this guy. So I say you work backwards, right? You look at who needs what you're trying to give away and go from there.
Yes. I totally agree with that. Let's move into some players to trade for, buy low. Obviously, you mentioned Jamar Chase and Josh Jacobs, 2 major guys to buy. Obviously, there is the concern there with Jamar Chase because of Joe Burrow. I think it's still worth the gamble.
I agree.
Because it's Jamar Chase, and you could potentially is Kyle Allen even the backup? Who's
no, it's some other dude.
Who the fuck?
It's some other dude.
Just that's it. It's just some dude, which some other dude at this point might be better than Joe Burrow because of the health. Do we even know? I
have it pulled up right here because while I was driving here, I was wondering. I was like, wait, who the hell?
Fantasy and driving. That's the type of dedication you don't see with
in so much traffic.
Guys.
This is New York City, man. I was in so much traffic. It's not even funny, man.
Bengals depth chart.
I don't have it up anymore. I don't even know who this guy is. I'm not even joking.
Okay?
Who is it?
I think he was at Washington. Could you guess?
No.
Jake Browning?
Jake Browning, yeah.
Was that Washington?
I have no idea.
Washington. Let's fucking go.
There you go. This is the concern. This is like those games you guys play.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to those, by the way. I see them. I'm just like, all right, I can't scroll.
I appreciate that. Those 2 guys you're obviously trading for. Some other guys. I'm going to name a few. Curious to know your thoughts on them. Also, I see the comments. We're going to get to all these comments afterwards when we're finished. As a reminder, Upper Hand Fantasy on Instagram. One of the gurus in the fantasy space. Make sure to go check out his content. He does amazing stuff. He's come on the podcast a ton. We love him. AJ Brown, Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, Rashad White, even though he had a good game, Damian Pierce, which is a ruffled feather one because I know the fantasy community is some are saying buy, some are saying sell, and then Jalen Waddle. What are some players on that list that could stand out to you? I'm trading for these guys.
I'm trying to get as far away from Damian Pierce as possible. Okay. Here's the problem. I love him as a player.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he had one of the best rookie seasons last year. He was one of the most efficient rookie running backs last year. However, he's in a 3-man backfield, and this is not a good situation. Houston's looking to pass the ball, dude. CJ Stroud's looking good. So
he looks great. Yeah.
He's making these wide receivers fantasy relevant as a rookie in the first couple of games. Nico Collins doing his thing. You got the rookie doing this. So it's like he's in a situation where Devin Singletary's getting too much run. Now if you're buying Damian Pierce, what you're doing is saying that, okay, I'm buying him and I'm assuming that he wins out and Devin Singletary ends up turning to a pumpkin at some point. Will that happen? I don't know. We haven't seen any evidence of that. Yeah. And now they have other running backs playing the passing down role now. Right. So it's like 3-man backfield. I'm staying away. I'm trying to move him right now. I want to say like, hey, does any in my group chat for my league, I'm like, hey, does anybody want to buy Dameon Pierce low from me? You know what I'm saying?
But
Like,
I don't know if I'm even willing, because here's what I'll say. I agree with all that. The issue is you're missing 3 starting offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Last week, they were down 14-0 before I think the offense even took the field, right? Because of the pick. So game script automatically was negatively impacting him. Last year, he didn't have that much, passing work. And obviously in the preseason he did, and that hype hasn't carried over. But he was still a formidable RB2 last year.
Oh, yeah. Last year was great because he was the only guy on the early downs. That was my issue. Like Devin Singletary now is eating into the early down work. That's my concern. This is not a Josh Jacobs situation where he's the only guy. So I know that once things get better, he'll get all the work. With Pierce, even in a positive game script, I think he's kind of capped out at like 15 carries because Devin Singletary is going to take 9 of those carries away.
Yep.
That's my concern with Dameon Pierce. And if there wasn't another running back taking carries away, even if there was a passing down back, I'm cool with it. But
because there's another guy there that's taking early down work like Devin Singletary.
That's my problem.
Interesting. Yeah. I also don't know what you can get for Dameon. I'd rather, like, you probably got him in the 4th.
It's true.
Like around that range was Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, and so many people were hit or miss on Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker. And Dameon Pierce was there. I don't think you're going to get much. I think
is he a hold for you?
Yeah. Well, he's a hold only because I'm not going to get anything. And at least and the running backs there's terrible running backs right now. Yeah. Like Brian Robinson is a top 5 running back in fantasy. Raheem Mostert is a top 6 running back in fantasy. Like the regression to the mean is coming. So I just don't. I see why you would want to trade him. I totally agree with all of that. I just don't think you're going to get enough. So I think it has to be a hold.
The only way I'll trade Dameon Pierce is if another manager in my league is super desperate for a running back. And that's where they might end up paying something for him. You know how I said I don't love like George Pickens?
Yeah.
Like I'll buy George Pickens for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Deontay Johnson, who's going to miss 3 weeks.
Maybe you were high on DJ.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe you want to put in something a little bit extra for that, but you have to be patient. You have to be 2-0 to make that type of move.
Totally. Well, that's a good segue into Etienne because Etienne had a great week 1. Week 2 wasn't as good. Volume's there. Tank Bigsby didn't do absolutely a single thing.
Nope.
What are you even trading? So let me rephrase. Is Etienne a buy low?
I think so.
Or is he a buy in general?
I think he's a buy in general. I love what I saw from him in week 1, and it really wasn't about the production. It was really about the opportunity. Tank Bigsby wasn't involved at all. He's gotten the goal line carries. He's being utilized in the receiving game a little bit more, running more routes. And he's getting the lion's share of the rushing work. So we're expecting this offense to take a step forward this year, and we saw some of that in week 1. Week 2 wasn't as good. The wide receivers were a little bit banged up too. Calvin really should be fine. So, once he's in that groove, I think that Etienne's going to have his games, and I was somebody who wasn't high on Etienne coming into the year because I thought Bigsby might take some of that receiving work, some of that goal line work, and we could see him.
Yeah, I think he still might.
He could still increase his role a little bit, but it seems like they're in on Etienne as being their guy.
Yep.
So now I've flipped the script a little bit, and I do think that people should be trying to acquire Etienne.
Etienne's one of those guys where I don't know where the perceived value is.
Yeah.
Because he had a great week 1, but people I still think have Tank Bigsby in the back of their head.
My only thing with Etienne last year was that he had all the opportunity in the world and he underperformed, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year. And if you do get him, in this landscape, I think, it's worth it because the running backs is just dropping like flies right now.
Yeah. And there's that actually brings me to a thought of Javonte Williams, where Javonte is a guy who coming into the offseason, you knew, okay, Sean Payton has had an RB1, 10 straight years, that great factor. Like it's going to be Samaje Perine or Javonte Williams. Javonte's come back from injury. I'm going to maybe draft both. I'm going to stick with one of them. Well, Javonte, yes, did they have more? Samaje, I believe, had more work in week 2.
In week 1.
In week 1.
Week 2, Samaje hardly even got a carry
in
that game. I think he only had 1 carry, if I'm not mistaken. So it seems like Javonte is a clear one.
Is Javonte a buy for you then?
I think so. There's a little bit of risk there because of the fact that he's coming off a very bad injury.
Yep.
And could he get hurt again? Yeah, he can. But the way that this split is looking, it's looking like Javonte is going to be the guy. As long as he doesn't get hurt, I think that this could be a situation where they start ramping up his work a little bit more and more and more because of the fact that Samaje Perine hardly got work in week 3 and Jaleel McLaughlin coming out of nowhere, and getting, work here and there as well. You would think that that would be all Samaje Perine. So, I do think so because I think that the work that he's getting right now is startable, like borderline RB2-ish. I'm talking about Javonte here.
Yeah.
And then, but I think moving forward, if his work starts increasing a little bit, this offense is looking okay.
Better days are coming, I think. Now, I don't know if
Russ
it happens.
is looking okay.
Yeah, he looks better.
You know, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I think Javonte, again, it's like we've talked about, like the running backs, there's maybe 3 that you feel comfortable with at the top, CMC, Bijan, and I don't even know. Like, who is there another running back out of the gate that you're like, you know what? They are my clear cuts at the top. Because after that, it goes to like a mid-tier, a low tier. I'm not even saying like RB1 or RB2s, like
those high-end RB1s.
Those high ends.
Yeah.
Like mid, low, like it's such a drop off.
Chubb was there, Saquon was there.
And now they're not.
Yeah, they're not anymore.
Yeah, so it's there's not many other running backs that I feel comfortable with. So Javonte's a guy that that's why I'm saying that with Dameon Pierce, right? With Dameon Pierce, I don't want him on my team, but I may not have a choice. So there are better days. Javonte hasn't popped off yet. He was the RB1 that like everyone wanted him to be coming out of college. They were like the usage, yada, yada, Sean Payton. So I think better days are coming for Javonte. There are a lot of questions. There are 140 people in here submitting questions. So everyone submit some questions, some trade questions. We got Upper Hand Fantasy. Faraz, don't even call him Upper Hand Fantasy. His real name is fucking Faraz. On Instagram, make sure to check him out. He does amazing content. He has 6 podcasts a week, waiver wires, so much stuff to help you win your league. You could also ask him questions, but now's your chance without having to go through the paywall to ask him some questions. So make sure to drop some questions, some trade ones. I'll shout you guys out. We'll get some questions going.
I will say though,
you
can still ask me questions on my post on my Instagram. So
you do answer those.
I'm sitting there as I post. I'm sitting there answering questions for a good 10, 15 minutes, and I fire them off. So I'm just
all right. This is an interesting one. Should I be? And we talked briefly about it. Should I be shopping players like Kyron Williams and Nico Collins?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everyone has a price, or
are you riding with them rest of the season?
It really depends what you need. I think Nico Collins is like shaping up to be one of the draft day values right now. I think he's going to continue to operate as the number 1 wide receiver. I don't think that Tank Dell overtakes him as the number 1 wide receiver. The thing that separates, Robert Woods is getting targets too. Yep. The thing that separates Nico is that he's getting targeted downfield. He's getting targeted in the end zone. And that's what separates him. Even if he gets a similar target share as those guys, the ADOT is way higher, the air yard share is way higher, and the red zone usage is going to be higher as well. So he's somebody that we identified before the season as somebody who needs a quarterback.
Right.
Because if you just look at his play, he's a separator. He can even separate against zone too, so he can find those soft spots. So from what I've saw from CJ Stroud over the first 2 weeks, like I'm keeping him because of the fact that I don't think that people are high enough on him just yet.
Yep.
They think that this is just a flash in the pan these first 2 weeks. But he's looking good, man.
Yeah, he looks great.
I think I'm holding Nico for now until he has a few more weeks that he can put together. And then maybe at that point, it's like, all right, Nico Collins is here to stay. Now his perceived value is way higher. That's when I would trade him at that point. Kyron Williams is, I would potentially look at him right now.
Yeah.
Is he, look at the first 2 weeks. Just look at the game log for the first 2 weeks, the fantasy points that he scored. That is super tradable. And I'm not saying that, listen, he's my RB6 on the week for this week. However, you might want to just take advantage just to throw some offers out there, see what you can get.
Totally.
Can you get these high-end players? Like, can you package him up with another wide receiver and get Bijan?
Yep.
Right?
Which would be crazy.
I mean, listen, Kyron Williams plus, somebody needs a running back. Oh, somebody needs a wide receiver, high-end wide receiver.
Yep.
Can you trade Kyron Williams and Keenan Allen for Bijan? Can you trade Kyron Williams and Devontae Smith for Bijan? I think it's possible, right? Because if you look at Kyron Williams' fantasy points, he scored more than Bijan Robinson over the past 2 weeks.
So, and you could point to the usage and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. The usage is there, 99% of snaps or whatever.
It's
it was.
Crazy. Right? As a reminder, there's 165 people here right now in TikTok. If you are not just a fantasy fan, make sure to go listen to the Full Caps Off podcast recordings. Go to the link in our bio. We have episodes 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday and Thursday fantasy episodes. There will be a start sit at 5 o'clock tonight on TikTok. If you have any questions, I know there's a lot of start sits. And then Sunday, we do our pregame show from 12 to 12:50, and then a live watch along from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Those early games, we'll build a parlay together. We'll hang out. So make sure to go check out our full episodes. Link is in our bio. And come back tonight at 5 and Sunday as well. This is a really interesting question. This person, Hife Knife 007, says I have Jonathan Taylor. Who should I trade for?
Okay.
I actually flip that personally, and I say I'm holding Jonathan Taylor right this second. I don't think he's injured. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter 2 weeks ago or a week ago said he could pass the physical right now.
Yeah.
The NFLPA, there was whatever that was, where they're like, we've seen people are faking injuries to try and get paid. That feels like a Jonathan Taylor situation. Jonathan Taylor, the concern was, oh, well, what about the Colts, right? What are they? Well, Zach Moss just had a damn good fucking game. The offense, not as bad as you maybe thought. Michael Pittman's been formidable. I personally am holding Jonathan Taylor or
trade for him.
Trade for him.
Yeah.
I want to know your thoughts.
I'm 100% with you. Jonathan Taylor just posted that photo on Instagram with him in the Colts facility with all his gear on.
Right.
Like he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. So he wouldn't have posted that on his own personal Instagram if things weren't okay between him and the Colts. Right. Usually when teams are negotiating or they're not okay, what do? They take off like the team name from their bio, right? They unfollow all of their teammates and coaches and stuff like that. He's doing the opposite. Okay. So it seems to me like he'll be okay. Now, Anthony Richardson is looking pretty good. Okay. So this offense without Jonathan Taylor, that's been pretty good.
It's been really good.
You know, so like with Anthony Richardson there, he's also like checking it down a little bit as well, a little bit more than I thought he would. So I think Jonathan Taylor, like I said, like you said, he's a great buy low. Now, if you need, let's say you're 0-2 and you can't afford to wait until Jonathan Taylor comes back, and that is a situation where I would be looking to trade him, and I'll be looking to trade him to the 2-0 teams, okay, because those teams have a little bit to spare. They're more likely to trade for Jonathan Taylor. So let's say there's 4 2-0 teams in your league and you're 0-2, you have Jonathan Taylor. Those are the teams that I would target. I would try to, just to do what you can. Maybe you can get 2 players out of Jonathan Taylor. You never know. So that's kind of how I would treat it. But I agree with you.
Yeah, it's Anthony Richardson has surpassed the expectations that were put on him early in the season.
Agreed.
And I think with Jonathan Taylor, whether he gets traded or not, I could also see a situation where the agent said, all right, you know what, this didn't work out the way we kind of wanted. Let's now flip our script. Let's go back into the locker room. Let's look like the guy on social media that people want to be around. Maybe Jim Irsay is inclined to trade you more after. So I think it's a win-win if you have Jonathan Taylor, especially if you're 2-0. I would also buy low on him. I want to bring this up because we touched on him the entire probably first 15 minutes of the episode, but so many comments are asking, what do I do with PUKA NACUA? In a nutshell, what are you doing with PUKA NACUA?
So I'm packaging him up 2 for 1 and try to get these top guys. Try to get a Jamar Chase. I'm sorry. No. Okay. Try to get Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Try to get Christian McCaffrey. Try to get Bijan Robinson. Those are the 3 guys that you cannot do a 1-for-1 trade.
Right.
But you can package them up right now with somebody who needs a wide receiver, for example. So if I'm trying to get Bijan Robinson, you can't do a 1-for-1, but that team might need a wide receiver. So what you do is you give them a running back that's startable plus PUKA NACUA to try to get Bijan. Same thing the other way for Justin Jefferson. That team might be 0-2. You trade them PUKA NACUA, and they might need a running back, which is why they're willing to give away Justin Jefferson. And then you give him a low-end RB1.
Yeah.
Maybe a Josh Jacobs and a PUKA. I'm okay with that. For even though I'm selling Josh Jacobs low and I want to buy him, I'm fine doing that. I'm willing to do that. If you want to upgrade at wide receiver and they don't have anybody behind Justin Jefferson, you trade a Devontae Smith plus a PUKA NACUA for Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying that the Justin Jefferson manager is going to accept those trades, but those are the type of trades that I want to put out there to get feelers for, because you never know, man. 0-2 teams get desperate.
Well, I think, the only counter I make to that is just because of how they've performed in terms of Tyreek and Jettis, those teams are probably 2-0. Let's clarify. Like, there's a good chance.
Now, if they at the 2-3 turn, like think about it, you got Justin Jefferson, right? At the 2-3 turn, if you grabbed Josh Jacobs, that might not have worked out. You might have grabbed. There's a couple other guys who busted around the 2-3 turn as well. So like, there's a few teams that Justin Jefferson might have done his thing, but like that was the 101. The way that you win is most likely is like the guys that you drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds came through for you.
Yeah. It's tough because I think Jamar Chase usually is going to be on those 0-2 teams, and that he might be more available than others. I know you mentioned you're probably not trading for Jamar Chase because of you'd rather target these other guys. But I want to clarify what you're saying. Even a Jamar, even any of these CeeDee Lambs potentially.
Oh yeah.
So like any of these,
I'll do a 1-for-1 CeeDee Lamb. I'll do it with PUKA. I'll do a 1-for-1 AJ Brown. I'll do a 1-for-1 Devontae Smith. Who else? I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill, you would have to give another player
Yep.
for Tyreek Hill. But I'm either doing that and upgrading to a legit wide receiver 1 with PUKA, or I'm holding, because like I said earlier, I do believe that PUKA, should remain a top 20 wide receiver, even if Cooper Kupp comes back, because they play different roles.
Totally. I mean, there's a ton of comments here, but as a reminder, this is only a 45-minute episode. So if you want more, make sure to check us out at 5 o'clock tonight. We're doing a live on TikTok. If you have more questions, there's a lot of questions about start sits and everything. Make sure to tune into that because we cannot get to all these questions. There are a shit ton of them. There are over 100 just pouring in every second. But for us, before we sign off, what would be, like, if you had to wrap up your thoughts heading into week 3 about fantasy, which is a loaded question, what would that last thought be? Would it be like, I'm trying to make trades right now, I want to target this person, I want to hold on this person, I want to, like, what is your major overarching thoughts about heading into week 3 that you can impart on the viewers?
Yeah, I think that, don't fall in love with your players. Just know that everybody has a value, and be willing to trade anybody if the right trade comes through. Now, if you're in a league that doesn't like the trade, it is what it is. You got to deal with it. You got to pick up guys off the waiver wire. But again, if you're 0-2, keep just improving your team. Pick up guys off the waiver wire. By the way, can I just say one thing? One player everyone should be picking up right now?
Jalen Hyatt?
No, that was so random. That was the most. No. He did play well. On
the Giants might need a wide receiver. So I'm just saying he's someone that, like, in a couple weeks could be a pickup. So what are you going to say?
Or tonight, you never know.
He could. Well, you got to get him right now then, because he
got him right now. But Kendra Miller.
Yeah.
Kendra Miller is still available on waiver wires, guys. He got a full practice in yesterday. Tony Jones is barely an NFL player. Listen, I'm barely a Pop Warner player. Okay, like, I don't even know if I can.
Give yourself more credit. You can cook on JV.
I don't know. I don't even know about that, honestly. But some of these kids can hit, man. I'm scared. I'll be in my office. But listen, man, Kendra Miller got a full practice in. I'm a big fan of him as a prospect. I love Jamal Williams as a person. But, I was kind of shitting on Jamal Williams this offseason, saying that Kendra Miller is just a way better player. Yeah. Unfortunately, the hamstring injury, affected Kendra, early on, and he couldn't get it going. But he's a full go now. Jamal Williams is going to miss a few weeks,
so it's worth a fly,
because you can start him this week. Yep. All these people need running backs. Why is he on 80% of waiver wires today on a Thursday? He should have been picked up on Tuesday night. I did. I threw in $5 for him of my $100 fab, and nobody else bid.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I'm like, what is going on here? This is crazy. So pick him up. You can start him this week as an RB2. And with Alvin Kamara coming back, Alvin Kamara wasn't the most efficient running back on early downs last year. This could turn into a little bit of a 1-2 punch.
Okay. Well, hey, you said it. He's one of your guys. You've liked Kendra Miller. The other guy that you've liked a lot and you spoke highly of is PUKA NACUA before the season, and you hit on that. So that's why you got to make sure to tune in to Faraz at Upper Hand Fantasy. He knows what the fuck he's talking about. So if you are on TikTok right now, make sure to go check him out on Instagram. But hey, this is always fun. I love having you on.
Hell yeah, man.
You know your shit. Like, you're doing amazing stuff.
I appreciate
we love
this is so much fun. I'm missing the guys here.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll be able to do something.
Yeah, we'll do a ton more. And as a reminder, Monday through Friday, we release caps off episodes. So tomorrow we'll be coming out with our predictions episode. If you're looking to bet on the games, get in on the action, gameday.com/promotions. Tune into that predictions episode tomorrow, because even though Felipe is not here, we've got a few things to say about PUKA NACUA and the Rams. And then also Sunday, we're doing a pregame show, 12 o'clock to 12:50, and then a live watch along from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We're streaming the live games. We're placing parlays. We're drinking beers. We're having fun. We're shooting the shit. So make sure to check that out. And then last but not least, there's a lot of fantasy questions here. 5 o'clock tonight, Eastern, start sits. Make sure to tune in, set your reminders. We'll be going live and talking more fantasy. But this is fun.
Hell yeah, man.
Appreciate you.
Hell yeah, anytime.
All right. We'll see you tonight.